My name is Paul Robles. I'm a visual artist. I was born in the Philippines, and my family, including my grandma, immigrated here in the early 70s. So I was about 4 years old when I arrived, and we landed in Winnipeg in June wearing parkas. So I'm Filipino, first generation, I guess. I consider myself uh, Canadian because I was brought up here. As an immigrant, first generation, you were told to disappear. And now it's a paradox because the second generation of Filipino kids, which I love, are, they're not told to disappear. They're very vocal about being Filipino X, and then like any generation, it's just like, yeah, I'm here, I'm this, I am that. Even though a lot of them were sort of born in Canada, but they're also very much into their heritage, and I like that because it's like, not that I'm old, but I'm just kind of like, oh, that'd be interesting if I had that at that time, because back then we were totally told to assimilate. I've always been doodling, and I always loved kind of art. And then so after my first degree, so I would been in my 18, 20 year olds, I decided, someone said, oh, you should apply to the art school. And so I did. And I got in, and I was like, wow, I was quite shocked. And then I went to art school. I did 4 years of BFA, and I ended up, doing honors, and then doing a thesis. And I ended up getting actually a gold medal in both my studio practice back then. And it's like, wow. Paper cutting came along relatively later in life or in my career, because I did a lot of photography. I had shows with my photographs. Photography back then was super expensive. If you didn't get an arts grant, you sort of had to like sort of fill your studio time with other things. And I had origami paper as props. I had started learning how to do origami, and I started folding flowers and foliage and stuff. And I would use them as props for my photographs. I'd have portraitures of people, with flowers coming out of their mouths and stuff like that. I basically just started going, oh, I have all this paper, I should start cutting. And that's kind of the road of my work. When I went to China for about 2 months in sort of 28, I did a sort of self-residency where I got a grant. So I basically traveled China a bit. I started in Hong Kong and then crossed into mainland and went to Beijing and all that stuff. So paper cutting in Asia and China is sort of definitely a craft that the craftspeople on the street selling their wares. And I was so fascinated about that. And normally in China or Asia, it's sort of used for good luck. So people would give paper cuts of sort of animal familiars or symbols. If you're getting married or having a baby, it'd be like, have a good future. I just brought that over and sort of all that visual language back to Canada, and I sort of made my own sort of way through the tradition, but I've sort of just put a spin on it after that. The meditative and sort of lap work of paper cutting, I guess you can associate to almost like knitting or crocheting, I guess. It takes a while. You do make mistakes, and you have to start again, and it's precision and things like that. The meditative part was always a good part, because when you're traveling, you could bring a little folio and a little blade, and you can cut in the hotel room while you're doing other stuff. I think a lot of it had to do with the origami paper and the fact that in Japanese tradition, origami paper is not supposed to be cut. It's supposed to be folded. That was sort of my punk version of myself, where I just like, well, I'm just going to cut this. When I started it, a lot of people were like, oh, paper cutting, it's not painting, it's not drawing, it's not traditional. And I kind of like that. I kind of like the disruption of like, oh, well, Paul does this. Before my name was labeled to my work and I had it in a gallery or a show, if you didn't have Paul Robles there, people would often think it's done by a female. And I just love the fact that, this sort of medium had a stereotype already to it. A lot of craft is like that too. A lot of people define craft in this way, but I mean, I like the fact that I'm disrupting that definition. It's 1 foot in tradition and craft, which I don't mind. I don't like labels, but then it also lands into the contemporary part and sort of subject matter that I'm making, sort of addresses sort of today's issues. And the main thing is about identity and sort of disrupting identity and otherness. I think the melding of craft and handwork and all that has now collided with contemporary art, whatever that means. It's actually very simple. It's like drawing with a blade. So I have a lexicon in a world of images and animals, and I started off like really interested in sort of animal familiars. Like most of us have an animal associated to our a year of birth. It's sort of very similar to the North American zodiac. I am a rooster. I was born in the year of the rooster. We're in the year of the tiger. So all of those come into play. I was drawn to Asian cuts first because obviously I'm Asian, but and I like the storytelling of the Chinese paper cutting. So, and I've taken that and I've taken characters like the monkey and the rooster and the tiger and the birds and contemporized them. And then I've made this sort of lexicon of my language. So a lot of my pieces addresses those sort of things and combined with sort of searching, studying sort of what is male, what is a contemporary male identity, otherness. So and then adding sort of peppering it with tradition and sort of I've always been into the idea of ghosts and sort of spirits of and folk tales from my youth. But in a way, yeah, it's like drawing, but I just draw with a blade and then I assemble the piece together. So and a lot of people will think the paper cuts are very flat, and they can be. And I started out very flat work. It was very almost like a silk screen, but my work has progressed to the fact that it's almost sculptural, and the fact that I'm making paper do things that paper shouldn't be doing, and organic paper at that. So, and I like the fact that, again, I like the disruption of that. It's not like an easy tick box that you can just say, "Oh, that's a paper cutter." And I've always liked the hand cut. People always say, "Well, you can do more with a laser cut or get a computer to do it." And I'm like, "Well, that's not the point. The point is, I like my hand involved. I like the mistake or the oddness of that cut. Like, I mean, I cut a lot, and if it just looks like a drawing. I mean, you can't get someone mechanical to do it. So, I mean, yes, I could definitely get a die cut to do it and have layers and layers of all these cuts and birds cut. But I actually just hand cut it, and I like the fact that that's there. We were in a studio fire, a major studio fire in 2019, where we lost all our work. So that was a milestone too, because at that point, 2019, which wasn't that long ago, I mean, I had pretty good success, but I was just like, okay, I've lost everything. I mean, there are pieces in collections, so I haven't lost everything, but I'll never see those pieces again. And I'm glad they're in collections. But I mean, I just basically started over. So in 2020, which was the COVID year, which was actually when we got the space, it was a silver lining for me because I got to basically be in the space as new space, new clean slate. I didn't have anything. I did save a box. I happened to be in a residency when that fire happened, so I did have a box from my studio of a lot of my stencils that I keep and sort of samples. So I did have that, basically a file box, and then it just grew from there. And my work has totally changed now from pre-fire to after fire. If I was not a capital artist, contemporary artist, I would probably still do it. I would probably be that person that had a basement studio and just do it and do it for myself and do it for family.